Approximately 7 to 10 years ago, a story was told by someone named Solomon Moses that the story of Daniel hasn't happened as yet. Why? Because Daniel himself wasn't born at that time. So let's watch the story of Daniel.
Named Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who remained faithful to God and refused to worship the statue. When King Nebuchadnezzar learned of their disobedience, he had them brought before him. He gave...
Notice Nebuchadnezzar wanted everyone to bow down to his statue. So let's read what King Darius, who is basically Nebuchadnezzar, said. The royal administrators, satraps, said the decree that anyone who prays to any god or man during the next 30 days, except to you, O king, shall be thrown into the lion's den. So that's what Darius did. So they went to the king and spoke to him in his royal decree. Did you not publish a decree that during the next 30 days, anyone who prays to any god or man except to you, O king, will be thrown into the lion's den? So who did that? Nebuchadnezzar. In other words, Nebuchadnezzar is Darius.
Gave them one last chance to worship the statue, but they stood firm in their faith and refused. Infuriated, the king ordered the furnace to be heated 7 times hotter than usual, and had the 3 men thrown into it. To the king's amazement, as he looked into the furnace, he saw not only the 3 Hebrew men walking unharmed in the midst of the flame,
3 Ethiopian men. Remember, the oldest Bible was written in Ge'ez, not in Hebrew.
But also a 4th person who appeared like a divine being. This 4th person is not explicitly identified as Jesus in the biblical account, but many interpret it as a pre-incarnate appearance of Christ.
Why? Because Christ is supposed to be here at the same time with Daniel. So let's watch.
Daniel explained that the statue represented kingdoms. Babylon as the golden head, followed by lesser kingdoms, and a divided kingdom depicted by feet of iron and clay. In turn, these would be destroyed by a kingdom set up by God.
In other words, God's kingdom, paradise, everlasting life. Everlasting life is supposed to be at the end of times after the destruction of Babylon.
Symbolized by the stone uncut by human hands that smashed the statue to pieces. It is wise to consider the impermanence of earthly power and the lasting promise of the kingdom of God. And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom, which shall never be destroyed.
In other words, at the end of times, or in the latter years. So let's watch.
But let the stump and its roots, bound with iron and bronze, remain in the ground, in the grass of the field. Let him be drenched with the dew of heaven, and let him live with the animals among the plants of the earth. Let his mind be changed from that of a man, and let him be given the mind of an animal, till 7 times pass by for him. The decision is announced by...
And that obviously didn't happen thousands of years ago. Why? Because it's supposed to happen at the end of times, you know? Hello.
Messengers, the holy ones, declare the verdict, so that the living may know that the Most High is sovereign over all kingdoms on earth and gives them to anyone he wishes and sets over them the lowliest of people. Daniel chapter 4, verses 14 through 17. According to the Bible, angels have worked throughout history to carry out judgments, directing the fates of nations who have disobeyed God. For example, God used angels in scattering the people of Israel because of their sins. He also used angels to punish Sodom and Gomorrah, as well as Babylon and Nineveh in the end.
In the end. So let's read the Apocrypha, which is translated out of the Ethiopian original tongues. And if you don't know, the Ethiopian Bible has more than 88 books, compared to 66 in the King James Version. So as you can read in the first book of Esdras, which is about Revelation and about these times, you will find Solomon. And Solomon built the Ark of the Lord. Why? Because Solomon is Moses himself. And we all know that there's only one Ark. So also in the book of Esdras, which is just another name for Solomon and Moses, you will find the servants of Solomon with 372. Why? Because they are the servants of Moses, the man of God. And he's supposed to be here in the times of David, the king of Israel. Remember, Haile Selassie also goes by the name of Heli, was crowned king of Zion. And he brought the people out of bondage. Why? Because Moses is supposed to be here at the same time with the son of Aaron. Why? Because Levi is Moses' brother. who also is here? Also, Jesus is here. So Jesus is just another name for Joshua. So Moses, together with Joshua, is here at the same time with the son of Aaron, and they're also here at the same time with Nebuchadnezzar, or if you want to call him Darius, same person. They're supposed to be here together at the same time. And when is this? At the end of time. So I, Esdras, received the charge of the Lord upon the Mount Herib, that I shall go unto Israel, and I came unto them. They set me at naught, and despised the commandment of the Lord. In other words, Esdras is Moses himself, one of his many names. And when is this supposed to happen? At the end of times, where the Persians quaked at her boldness in reference to Judith, and the Medes were daunted at her haughtiness. They perished by the battle of the Lord. So all these characters are supposed to be here within the same time. And there you will find 2 great dragons came forth ready to fight, and their cry was great, and their cry all nations were prepared to battle, that they might fight against them, might fight against the righteous people. In other words, the world is going to get set up where there's a line, so you're going to know who's righteous and who's down with the evil. And God is basically going to save the righteous because they're going to cry on to him. So if you don't know, the entire region from India to Ethiopia was called Ethiopia. Why? Because the whole region from Egypt to India was called Ethiopia. Ethiopia, Eastern Ethiopia, is just another name for India. So let's read the end of Esther, because that's where you will also find Nebuchadnezzar. So we'll find that the Jews are no evildoers, but live by just laws. Why? Because they already got taken out of captivity, and they realize that only God alone is God. So they won't be praising any other God. So Jews from Judea were doing wicked in his sight, but to the end they're going to find and pray the Most High. Wherefore you shall do well, and not put in execution the letters sent unto you by Aman, the son of Amadatha. For he that was the worker of these things is hanged at the gates of Susa, which is in Iran, with all his family, who ruleth all things speedily, rendering vengeance to him according to his deserts. Why? Because at the end, Nebuchadnezzar want to take over the whole world. For the Almighty God have turned to joy unto them the day wherein the chosen people should have perished. But they lived thanks to the commandments of God. And in it he said, and in the days of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be brought to ruin, and the kingdom itself will not be passed on to any other people. Because right now, people are taking over his land and renaming it. So let's watch. Like, believe in this.
Believe anything that spews out of these people's mouth? Think these people are going 250 miles up into the atmosphere, catching the ISS that's traveling 17,000 miles an hour, and getting on it and caught these people in quite a few lies through photos and videos. Wait, you haven't seen any of them? Let's check them out. So if these people are actually on the ISS, why are they the only ones glitching out and not the background? It's almost like they're on one layer and the backgrounds are,
They draw planets that they can't film. Isn't that crazy? So they just keep spreading lies on top of lies.
Pronounced. And here you have at the White House, you have, at the Pentagon, you have something called the Defense Policy Board. And the Defense Policy Board is a bunch of civilians, basically at that time neocons, Jewish neocons, who made policy for the Pentagon. And, you know, the head guy was Deputy Defense Minister, Secretary Wolfowitz, at the head of the table here. And across the table, smiling with the mustache, that's Rabbi Dov Zakheim. And he was the comptroller at the Pentagon. You might recall he was the man who said the day before, he was the comptroller of the funds. The day before 9/11, Rumsfeld told the public that there's missing $2.3 trillion unaccountable in the defense budget. That was on September 10th, 2001. He announced that. And sitting next to the Israeli man there, the Israeli man is the guy with the red beret. He's the Shaul Mofaz, an Iranian Jewish guy. And he was chief of staff. He's Israeli chief of staff. And here he is sharing notes, explaining to his Zionist colleagues at the Defense Department.
Notice he's Iranian. That's hilarious. So what were they doing in Jerusalem? They hearkened not, and Manasseh seduced them to do more evil than did the nations whom the Lord destroyed. Because Manasseh, king of Judea, have done these abominations and have done wickedly above all the Amorites did, and have made Judah also to sin with his idols. Therefore the Lord said, he's going to bring such evil upon Jerusalem and Judah, because they have done which was evil in my sight, and have provoked me to anger since the days their fathers came forth out of Egypt, even unto this day. So as we can clearly see, the people in Jerusalem today are doing evil in his sight.
What they should do. And the man with something in his eye, that's Douglas Feith. Douglas Feith, his father was in the Irgun. He's an American, but his dad was in the Irgun. And because his father was an Israeli, he is also then an Israeli as well. And we see that this idea of supporting Israel's agenda, it was made very clear when Hillary Clinton wrote this email that was released about a year ago. Secretary of State Clinton wrote that in this memo, the best way to help Israel is to use force in Syria to overthrow the government. So that's why under Obama was spending $1 billion per year to run this covert operation. We, the Americans, have been funding all of those radical Islamist groups that have been causing chaos.
In other words, the globalists are not nationalists. The bankers are what's running the world. Pay attention.
You can't talk about the Kennedy assassination without talking about Israel, without talking about the Messiah. They're the main people involved. That's the main group involved. The Prime Minister of Israel at the time said that without nuclear weapons, Israel would not survive. Kennedy was asking for neutral scientists to observe the reactor. We continue to push for this with CIA Director McCone, and finally was granted access. Israel, prior to the visit, set up a fake control room with fake control panels, and part of the agreement was that the inspectors were never going to be able to inspect the actual reactor. After that visit, Kennedy was quoted in saying, "Those sons of bitches lie to me constantly about their nuclear capability." The Jewish community invites JFK to come to Dallas, which was sponsored by the Dallas Citizens Council, which was directed by Julius Sheps, who was a member of the local B'nai B'rith organization, the ADL B'nai B'rith, once again, a confirmed member of the local B'nai B'rith as well. Abraham Zapruder was also, just so happened to be the guy that caught the assassination on film. Zapruder was also a manufacturer headquartered in the Dallas Textiles building. According to ballistic studies, it was from that building the first two shots were fired and missed. The building was owned by David Weisblatt, one of the biggest financiers of the Anti-Defamation League, and Douglas Japp, one of the biggest donors to Lyndon B. Johnson.
Hello. Wake up and know that Nebuchadnezzar is here now in these times. Follow Jah, not man.
Coat of arms, female black and the queen. Words coming from the sea to take the riches of the land from